Welcome to the next episode of Let's Know Buffalo. Our guest today is Reid from 26 Shirts.
Thanks for having me.
And you're technically the founder of Bills Mafia, or we can get into that story, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I always refer to you as Bills Mafia.
Yeah, well, co-founder, because, Leslie and Breon, and they were a big part of it as well, too.
Right, you had a big part of it, but super cool. Well, thanks for being on. And Joe Sorrentino is my partner here. He's never met you before.
Yeah, I'm super excited to get to know you because I know of the legend of you because of Bills Mafia, and shout out to my good friend Mike Biondo, who's an artist.
Love that dude.
Love Mike Biondo. So that's how I first heard of you when he was designing some shirts early on with 26 Shirts.
Yeah.
And he's the one that told me, and then I heard from you also, like, yeah, Bills Mafia.
But Biondo's done some of my logo work with some of my other businesses.
Remember that.
But you've got to be used to it by now, right? Like, you're Buffalo famous. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but you kind of are.
It's so weird.
Well, yeah, that's I'm curious to know, like, what's your story? Like, were you born here? Like, who is Reid?
Well, I was born in Tonawanda. I moved all the way to Kenmore, which is all right. You got it. Sometimes that joke doesn't land. Sometimes that
With realtors,
yeah, right, for sure. Definitely a Northtown's joke, but yeah. So I, lifer when it comes to living in Western New York. Raised my kids here. I have no plans to ever leave.
You can't now.
Can't now, I guess, right? But
Come this far.
yeah. So raised in a big Bills loving family, married into a bigger Bills loving family. It's just, it's been a great experience. My wife and I, Chrissy, will be celebrating 25 years this August.
Wow, that's incredible.
More of a testament to her than it is to me. For me, it's been easy to stick around. For her,
38 years old. How does that happen?
Yeah, funny how that works, right? Yeah. Add another decade onto that.
Ah, those dad jokes are so bad. I got to stop them.
No, don't escape it. Just embrace it. Just embrace it. Yeah. So just lifelong Bills fan, which is what I'm known for being, I guess. Now, if you talk about Buffalo famous, which I kind of hate that term, but
So what do we say then?
I don't know. It's just, but anyway. So yeah, I've been here for as long as I've been here. Big Bills fan, just as much as I am a Bills fan. I love superhero movies and science fiction and all that. Just happen to be known for the Bills stuff first, I guess. But yeah, just it's a normal guy, I guess, that happened to make
some really cool things these days, right?
Well, yeah, thank you.
I guess really, how did all this happen, and when did it happen?
Yeah, so I've always been addicted to screens, for better or for worse. Definitely for worse, a bigger picture. But my parents got a computer when I was in second grade. It was a Texas Instruments, hooked up to the television and everything, and just fell in love with it immediately. Just that antisocial behavior kicked in just like that. But no, but I've always just been into computers and screens. I keep saying screens, but you know what I'm saying.
I get it.
Anyway, so fast forward, I got a smartphone. I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. Now I have the internet in my pocket. And like I mentioned a few minutes ago, big Bills fan. So the ability to talk to other Bills fans across the world, that at that time we're looking at late 2000s, early 2010s, and complain about how bad the team was. Just having that was awesome, and developed some friendships through that social media channels, Twitter, and started just talking about the Bills, and then we would make jokes and all that, and then you fast forward to 2010, and the Bills are in a season that starts 0-8, and just peak droughtness, right? Because part of the struggle with the drought was that they were always 7-9, 8-8, 9-7,
right?
But they start that season 0-8, and then finishing the second half of the season 4-4. But during that 4-4 stretch, they pushed the Pittsburgh Steelers to overtime, and Steelers at that time were we could only hope to be near that level of consistency. And they're in overtime. Ryan Fitzpatrick throws, steps back, throws a bomb that lands right in Stevie Johnson's hands, and he drops it. He goes on Twitter that night and says, basically questions his faith, and Bills fans were like a big college town more than anything else. We're super engaged with the players and all that, and basically said, like, keep your head up. You know, you got a bright future ahead of you, that kind of thing. Just rallied around him.
That's one cool thing about, right, social media and the internet, the access that you could interact with a player, right? Like, it's very easy where, you know, back in 2000, the late 90s,
Right.
there was none of that, right?
And credit to Stevie, because he was the first player that really understood that, at least in Buffalo, the Buffalo sphere. But first, I remember really engaging with fans and not just like putting out a tweet and a bunch of people like it and comment on it, and then he never responds back or anything. But he would engage with fans and he would develop relationships with individual fans. To this day, he still does that. And he's a really special guy, special player in Buffalo history. But not to get too far down that path. But,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good, man.
It's just the access.
It's your show, you know.
Show is a far stretch of what we're doing here. Right?
Fair enough. But anyway, so the next day, Adam Schefter retweets Stevie's tweets, which in Twitter time is like a year later.
Right.
Especially when it's Adam Schefter, he's the one that puts out all the news. He doesn't regurgitate day-old news. And Bills fans, being the sensitive bunch that we are, kind of jumped on him. And,
So sensitive.
Yeah, so sensitive. Big babies. We are. I'm proud of it at this point. But started teasing him. Bree came up with the term Schefter breaking news. He didn't think it was funny. A couple days later, he blocked a bunch of us. And so go ahead to April of the next year, and you know, I coined the term Bills Mafia when I was just talking about the few of us that got blocked by Adam. It was real it was just a tongue-in-cheek joke. Wasn't trying to name a fan base. Wasn't trying to start a movement. Like, I fired off that tweet while I was waiting to pick up a pizza in Tonawanda, and put my phone back in my pocket. That was it. And then look at it a little later on, and like a bunch of people thought it was funny, and we're talking about it. And then you stretch that out over the next, 4 or 5 months, and all of a sudden, like, lots of fans are using it. Players are using it. Nick Barnett was the first to really adopt the term. If you remember him, he was here for a couple of years.
What do you say? Something like, "Oh, watch out, or the Bills Mafia is going to come for you."
Right. Something like that. Yeah. It was. He just embraced it. He had a mouth guard that he had that printed onto it and everything. Which, when you think about it as a fan, for you to make a term like that, and then to see a picture of like, oh my gosh, it blows your mind. And so then the media started to use it, and then you fast forward to 2020, and the team actually adopts it as the official moniker.
Right.
That's crazy.
It is absolutely crazy.
That's how I had no idea. I knew that term was synonymous with you. I just figured it was like from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah.
I had no idea it was from almost like defending the Bills fans.
Absolutely. That's how it, defending the Bills players and the fans, and it, for a long time, Bills Mafia was only a small subset of fans on social media, and the rest of the fans all made fun of us who were using that term. For sure.
Yes, that's
Bills Mafia is what they used to. The term they used to use, but they just kind of stuck around, and it's been weird and surreal. And you go to the stadium now, and you hear the guy over the loudspeaker, Clay Bowden, I should name drop him, over the loudspeaker, "Bills Mafia, get on your feet," and they're playing a song that, says "We the Mafia," and the players are running out to start the game, and then
I'm getting chills, like, just hearing the story. Like,
it's so weird,
right?
Just thinking about, like,
detail of it.
Any of the pregame shows, if they're mentioning, like, Bills home field advantage, they don't even say home field advantage. It's Bills Mafia. Like, it is nationally known.
It's amazing. Someday I'm going to wake up and this will all have been a dream, but that means I'll be 35, so it's okay. So it's all good. I had a really fun, 13-year dream or whatever. I get to be 35 again. But yeah, dude, it's surreal. I always use that word because I got to come up with a better thesaurus in my brain, because that's the word I always go to, is surreal. It just seems so unreal, dreamlike, that to come up with a funny term and for it to like resonate how it has. And you talk about the marketing aspect. If I was trying to do what happened,
would never have happened. Like, marketing agencies and people try to come up with ideas.
Well, yeah,
enforce things that just right.
Yeah,
and they never come to fruition. And what just happened there, how natural it was, and how quirky it like.
Yeah, it was if it wouldn't have happened if I tried, because it was like catching lightning in a bottle. But also, I wouldn't have used the term Bills Mafia, because if I'm trying to create something that maybe I'm going to be known as a co-founder of someday and whatever, I'm not going to use the team name in it because they own that name. Like Bills, that's a trademark term. Mafia is a pretty. Yeah, we get, there's people make comments. Like, there's some people that do not like that term.
Did you ever get a phone call from like the real Mafia? Like
the real Mafia? No, not yet. Right?
I don't know. The last who you name dropped.
Yeah, no doubt. No, but I have gotten letters with no return address. Even one a couple weeks ago telling me to stop using it. And I was like, well, dude, it's a little too late now. Like, even if I stop using
the Mafia,
yeah.
I mean, come on, grow up.
Well, it's just like it's way past me at this point anyway.
Sure.
But where was I going with all of that? But it's just, it's crazy. I never would have used any of those terms, but I think that's why it's stuck, because it's using the team name, because it's using a term that has an edge to it, and honestly, because there was no selfish term. There was nothing. We weren't doing it even when it took off. Bree, Leslie, and I, we didn't want to make it about us. We wanted to make it about all of the fans, any fans that wanted to identify with us, and we had a Bills Mafia website and a little blog, and on Mondays we did Mafia Monday, and every other blog was chasing
a place of being pure, right? Like,
right, yeah,
and just a fan.
Yeah, every other blog was chasing like player interviews, like, oh, I got an interview with Ed Wang or whoever was on the team new that year, and my thought was, all right, everybody else is doing that. Like, I want to lift up the fans, and so every Monday I do an interview with a different Bills fan, just that I knew through Twitter. How did you become a fan? What's your story? Who's your favorite player? What's your first Bills memory? That kind of stuff. Just because we're fans are the ones that make this whole thing go. So let's get to know some of you.
So this was all just a hobby, right?
You don't get paid to do anything.
No. I was, if anything, I was spending my own money, spending my own time.
Sure.
Pushing.
What were you doing for work at that time?
I was actually working at Roswell Park as a web developer. I always joke that I was the first web developer they hired. And I was the first web developer they laid off in 2015. It's all love. I mean, like, it's but yeah, I was gainfully employed. I wasn't looking to start anything. I certainly wasn't looking to start an eventual T-shirt company.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even trying to start any kind of like marketing brand or anything.
Right.
And it really was just
all of a sudden
fun.
Overnight you did.
Yeah, funny how that works.
Seems like overnight.
Yeah,
right?
It's the longest overnight, but it does. Like, there's some days when it feels like it was just yesterday that this all started, and then there's other days where it feels like that was a different lifetime, like 100 years ago.
But so you're starting to embrace the term because it's catching fire, and you're interviewing fans. You're saying,
yeah. And there was a couple times I talk about like other blogs chasing player interviews. I'm not gonna lie, like we interviewed Summer Sanders, gold medal Olympian Bills fan.
From Buffalo.
She's not. Her husband is.
That's right. Okay.
Logan Couture for the San Jose Sharks. He grew up, I think, in Southern Ontario. We interviewed him one time and everything. But it is really just about like lifting up fans and putting the focus on fans. And even as that grew, we had a blog, and we had different people that were contributing to it, like their own columns and everything. And I realized, like, because our Twitter account grew so quickly, you had Stevie Johnson pushing it and other, players like quote tweeting it and everything. I realized instead of trying to push everybody to our blog all the time, so that for whatever reason, I don't even know why, just because we wanted to have people read our stuff.
Yeah.
I realized that I had something that other Bills fans didn't have, and that was a large social media voice. And so I wanted to be productive with it, and I wanted it to benefit everybody. So I remember I put out a post, and I was like, if you have a Bills blog that you want me to share, like a post that you want me to share, just let me know, and I'll share it through the Bills Mafia Twitter account, and, that's it. I just want to lift up the voices of other fans. And I think that's kind of what made all of this stick, is because, like I mentioned a moment ago, Bree, Leslie, and I, we never wanted to make it just about us.
Right.
I was gainfully employed. I had no plans of ever leaving Roswell, and this was really just a cool opportunity to get to know other fans and kind of like see where it goes. But yeah, so that was kind of the thought process there.
So now, how does how does the T-shirt company start?
Okay, so if you go ahead a couple of years, so 2011 is when I made that Bills Mafia joke, and for 2 years, the social media presence just grew and grew. And
how many followers is that at that time after a couple years of that?
Probably around like 25,000.
Wow.
It's probably like 25,000 or so. If I had to guess, it was in that neighborhood. Now it has like 140 years. I didn't even pay attention to it anymore. But I talked about, wanting to use, just wanting to use my powers for good, right? Okay, lift up other fans, do things. Yep. So people would reach out all the time, and they would say, hey, can you share this? Can you share that? If it was like a money-making venture, like somebody's trying to sell their car, I'm like, I'm not doing it. You'd be surprised. Yeah, but if somebody's like, hey, there's a benefit this weekend, or whatever. So somebody reaches out to me in 2013, a gentleman named Scott Lunn, and says, hey, I'm doing this online raffle for an autographed Mario Williams jersey that he had won from Summer Sanders, which I mentioned a moment ago. And I'm not even a big memorabilia guy, but when you think about how you have this unique item that was at the time the most popular player in recent Bills history,
right?
That you won from a gold medal Olympian Bills fan, like why would you want to get rid of that? And so he goes on to tell me how his daughter, 2 years old, has a condition called retinoblastoma, which is like eye cancer.
Oh my God.
And I'm reading Amber's story and just getting just crying, choked up. It was before I go into work that day in the car, just reading it. And I was like, yeah, no problem, dude. I'll retweet your tweet, share your raffle. And it just really got me thinking, Bills fans, even in the middle of the drought in 2013, we are so merch hungry. We are so proud of our fandom. I mean, you're wearing a sweatshirt right now. So there's a desire there for a new, fresh T-shirt, especially something that's like kind of timely. And it was just after the whole Kiko Alonso thing, if you remember that. I made a joke. I called it the Legend of Kiko Alonso, and that was popular on Twitter for a while. So we did some Legend of Kiko Alonso shirts through Bills Mafia and just gave the money to a charity. And so that was kind of fun. It kind of piqued my interest, because it was fun to check the sales every day. Oh my gosh, we sold 5 more shirts. We sold 10 shirts, I remember I think we ended up selling 130, and it blew my mind that we were able to sell 130 shirts.
Yeah.
And so I had this idea to sell shirts to help families like Scott's. And I had what I call my Jerry Maguire moment, where I had this whole scheme I thought up with some friends the night before at a Bible study that I used to go to on Monday nights, and just sharing Scott's family story, and thought about how I could do this all the time. I could do this not every day, but I could do a new one every 2 weeks.
Sure.
52 divided by 2 is 26. That's where the name comes from. Means nothing now, because now we think of a shirt, we release it right away. So we're doing 2 or 3 shirts a week. But that was the idea. We would do 26 shirts over the span of a year, help 26 different families, and we would donate to these families in need. So that Jerry Maguire moment I was talking about, I wrote a whole big blog post about how I'm going to sell 26 shirts, but not individual shirts, but 26 designs. Mm-hmm. And not that I got laid off or fired like he did, but I was immediately accountable for that, because all of a sudden now everybody has this interest now that I've kind of put that out into the world. I had artists reaching out to me that wanted to contribute. I had the news reaching out to me. They want to know about this idea I had. I'm I have no idea.
What did I say?
Yeah, what did I? So, had a local shirt company. Dan Gigante owned a company called You and Who. He reached out to me and said, who's printing your shirts? I'm like, dude, I'm not even that far yet. I have no idea. I was using Teespring or something.
Right.
So now a local company wanted to print the shirts for me.
So you really put this idea out there without having anything set up for it.
Welcome to my life. It's funny. I was my wife, real quick segue. My wife and I were talking this weekend. She goes, "You are so impulsive," because I had done something that was just dumb and impulsive. I don't remember what it was. You are so impulsive. I'm like, hey, just so you know,
yeah,
I asked you out on an impulse, and look where it led us. I had this shirt idea. Look where it's taken me. So. But yeah, it was all impulse. It was I didn't think ahead to it. I just put the idea out there, and all of a sudden, I was accountable for it. So go ahead to Saturday afternoon, and Time Warner News or Spectrum News now has me out at the stadium talking about this shirt idea, and I'm like, we're going live on Monday, and it's going to support this family. And at that point, I hadn't had the website completed. I hadn't had the design finalized yet. But sometimes when things are moving along, you just kind of know it's going to come together.
Yeah.
And Mike Bedard, Bills fan artist out of Boston, actually knew Scott, and he contributed the artwork. I think I got it that night. I mocked it up to get all together, and it was kind of funny too. It was so clunky back then. I had my own WordPress site where it had a picture of the shirt. You'd click it to buy it, and it would take you to Dan's You and Who website, where you'd have to click it again to buy it. But it was, yeah, I remember like very early on, I realized like this might be something that lasts a while because there was so much enthusiasm behind this idea from people. And so I called it Volume 1, and now we're on like Volume 14. So
how many shirts total have you done? Do you know?
Over 700 unique designs.
Do you ever have anxiety of like, because you have to always come up with new ones?
Sometimes we have I have a really creative team in place now.
That sounds fancy. Whole team?
It is though. There's five of them, and everybody is really good at what they do, but they're all creative.
Yeah.
They all have ideas, and sometimes one person will think of something, and then another person will kind of like riff off of that, and then a third person will help nail it down.
Even the shirt that you're wearing now, right? Like, I would never think of that, and I love the creativity that goes behind that, right? Like, and a lot of your shirts are that. All of your shirts are that way, right? Like, just playing off something else or another brand or a town or very.
Biondo
cool.
did one with like the Tim Hortons logo.
Yeah, he did. That was back in like 2017.
It was just so unique, so Buffalo.
Yep.
It was so cool.
Yeah,
Get any blowback from any of the corporations for some?
Not really. No, I mean, when you see that, it's like the whole idea is we're not trying to fool the customer. We're not trying to make you think that this is a Tim Hortons shirt.
I know you're part of the mafia, so
we don't talk about that. No. But not really. There's been a couple times, but really, like, we have a pretty good understanding now of what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do, and
probably had to tune that in a little bit.
Oh, dude, I've stepped on those mines in the minefield, but haven't lost any limbs, so it's everything been good so far. But our intentions are pure, and not that we hide behind the fundraising, because lawyers don't care what you do with the money. You know, if they perceive that you are making money off of a brand that they're hired to protect, they don't care what you do with it. You're not supposed to be doing that. So we're very careful and respectful of all that, and because of what we do. I mean, we're a fundraising company.
Yeah.
We always talk about how 26 Church is a t-shirt company. It's a fundraising company. We want to be above board in everything we do. We're going to do what we're allowed to do, but we're not going to ever push the envelope so far that, some other entity is like, hold up, wait a minute. Like, what you're doing is not okay. Like, we don't want to get called into any principal's offices because, we did something nefarious or underhanded when we're trying to raise money for somebody.
Well, go back to, all right, you did the first shirt. How does this idea of just doing a shirt one time continue to grow and snowball into what it is today? Because, I mean, that doesn't happen overnight, and you're now doing it, and you've been doing it full time.
Yeah. So I'll speak to that. So first shirt, we sold 98 shirts. The first design, we sold 98 shirts. Second one was like 43. Next one was like 74. But it was so much fun. I just enjoyed the creative process so much. I really, really enjoyed talking to a family after you've raised like a significant amount of money for them. And they'll say like, oh, this is going to help pay for this, or this is going to help pay for that,
It's got to be you have a direct impact, right, on their life. Like,
my life motto is, I guess, or you could say my life motto is like make dents. If you can make a dent in something, like if you can make a difference, I want to make a dent in somebody's medical bills.
Sure.
Sometimes we swing and we whiff. We think it's a great shirt design, and we struggle to sell 30. And there's other times when we put a shirt design out there, and we're like, I don't know, and it ends up selling like thousands. It's so weird to gauge, even after all this time. But where was I going? I don't remember.
Well, we were kind of rewinding.
Oh yeah,
so like how you got to it being full time. So the first couple you sold.
Yeah, we sold 98, and then we had a couple during that year. Especially if you remember Blue for Ben Ben Sauer. We sold like 1,600 shirts for him.
Wow.
That was just 4 or 5 months into doing this whole shirt idea thing. And that's when I suddenly realized, like, holy cow, we might have something here. So we decided, let's do a second volume, volume 2. And during volume 2 is when I got laid off from Roswell. And I actually had the opportunity to post for another position. It's a union job. Like, you can post for other positions that are open. But at that point, I kind of knew, like, I've been driving to the wrong building every day. Like, I should be going to, at the time, Tri-Main Center, not, the Roswell campus.
So what is your, that decision that, all right, so now the entrepreneur is coming out, you get laid off from your position, you've got a wife, you've got 2 kids.
2 kids,
a mortgage, car payments.
You're making me feel back in that anxiety.
I know, but it's real. Like,
so Roswell, when I was separated, I got a 1 year's health insurance as my severance. So that's the most important thing. Like, you're accountable, to these children. I'm accountable before God to make sure that these kids are okay and fed and, whatever. And so it was one of those things like, all right, well, let's give it a year or less. If it becomes obvious that this isn't going to work, we'll pull the plug and I'll go back to developing webs, for someone else. And, within 6 months we had to hire somebody because the business had just continued to come in and there was so much support. And I think people on social media knew what I was doing was pure and that I was doing it. It wasn't some corporate, but anyways, credit to my wife who believed in me and believed in this idea and said, all right, let's take the leap. And
which is super important because if you don't have that support,
oh my gosh, it doesn't happen.
No, zero.
It doesn't happen. So we, like I said, we hired somebody 6 months into me doing it full time. About a year and a half later, we hired somebody else. And then a couple years later, we hired somebody else. And then it just continued to snowball. And like I said, now we have, 5 full-time employees. We have 2 artists, of those 5, because as the ideas come, we gotta, not.
Oh, it's on demand, right? Like, I mean, it's
it's crazy.
Well, and I know you've grown the merchandise and the branding, some of this, right, which is necessary.
Yeah.
But man, I'll see or hear something, and within hours, you guys are kicking out a design on a product, and I'm like, that is quick, because if you're not on top of it, right, somebody else is going to beat you to it.
One of the most exhilarating moments was that I had, like, the adrenaline that comes through is just insane at the same time too. I forget who it was. It was Pierre LeBrun or some Darren Drager, some hockey insider. This is, I think, 2018, 2017, whatever year it was that the Sabres traded for Jason Pominville, traded back from the Wild. And, somebody tweets like Pominville going back to Buffalo. And the Sabres hadn't even announced it or anything yet. And we're like, oh my gosh, this is huge. And so it was just Josh and I at that point in the office. And we quickly brainstormed an idea. Like, what if it was the welcome to Buffalo sign, but we said Pominville and it said welcome back to Pomin. So, I mean, he throws this design together so quickly. So within an hour, we have this design ready to go. Sabres announced that they've traded for Jason Pominville, and we have the shirt out there, on social media. Go by, and people are like, "How did you know?" Because not everybody sees all the news. Like, how did you know this? Are you in with, like, do you know the Pominvilles? Do you know the Sabres? And it was just such a rush. Like, you feel like you're racing against time to get this design out there.
You're literally, it's minutes and seconds that, like, with how quickly social media is these days, like, if you're not on top of it, like,
that is such a rush. I mean, first and foremost, I love helping families. I want to make sure that is why we exist. Every single family we help, I make sure I have a personal conversation with at least one. I want to get to know them, their story, and everything.
Can you humbly brag about how many families you've touched? Do you know?
Well, yeah, I don't know how many. I can tell you 700 plus designs because I have a spreadsheet. In terms of the number of families, I guess 14 volumes times 26. So math.
You do the math.
Yeah.
Somebody out there will have to edit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So
I mean,
13 and a half volumes, I say. So
anything higher than 0 is incredible, right? Like the fact that what it just started from one.
364 families.
right there.
That is crazy.
That is crazy. It's not all families. Some of those campaigns were for nonprofits and stuff. Although the past couple of years, we've really tried to pull back from the nonprofits fundraising and really trying to focus on families because that's our mission. That's our goal. But yeah, it's crazy.
And the amount that you've raised, I heard, was over $1 million.
Yeah, we're at 1.9 something. So we're close to $2 million. Almost at $2 million. So people will say like, "What's next for 26 shirts?" I'm like, $2 million. Like seriously, it's because that's why we exist. Yeah, we've expanded our products out from shirts to everybody's drawers are filling up. We have so many great supporters, so we got to do hats. We got to do.
My wife yells at me all the time.
Sneakers.
And it's not just your T-shirts, but T-shirts in general. She's like, "Can you stop buying like you have thousands of it's maybe not thousands, but." You get the point.
Oh, yeah.
Packed in there.
Yeah, it's funny. My wife used to say the same thing. The only answer is you got to start a T-shirt company. It's like, now what? What do you want me to do? Like, this is. But even still, she found out I had a whole like cash in bins up in the attic, for just T-shirts. She's like, no, we're not doing this. We're not. I'm like, well, you can't see them. You're never going to. We're not doing this. It's not mentally healthy. I fought her for a little bit. Now I understand. Like, all right, you gotta let go.
Funny.
But where was I going with all that? So I don't know. I'm a terrible interview. I don't remember where I was going.
Listen, it's an incredible story.
Yeah, I'm just
again, you get laid off, you start this company, it grows. So I mean, fast forward to today. What do you got going on in the future? You're increasing the product lines, like you're still helping families.
Yeah. So, like I said a moment ago, everybody's drawers are filling up. We have really passionate supporters, and we want to make sure that they're able to continue to support us like they want to, but we got to give them something else besides just, shirts. So we do hats. We've done sneakers at this point, all kinds of, tchotchkes, cell phone covers, anything you could think of. We've done it. We just launched today. We launched mouse pads and laptop sleeves for redesign. So just try to make sure that if there's a design out there that you like, we can find a product to put it out there.
And that's, Bills fans and most NFL fan bases are passionate about it.
But there's something different with Bills fans, man.
No doubt.
When I just came home from Florida, and whenever I travel, I bring Bills gear.
Yep.
Getting on, just walking through the airport, probably 50% of the flight going back to Buffalo, people are wearing Bills gear. You don't see that at any other terminal.
It's a. I think Tim Russert said it's a way of life. It's not a fandom. It's a way of life.
Yeah.
And that's the best feeling in the world. You're walking around like Disney World or anywhere, not Buffalo.
And to say, go Bills.
Go Bills. Go Bills.
That's the best.
So whenever I see it, I try to make sure that, I go Bills.
Yeah, man.
And like, there's always some jamoke who's like that's not how it works. You don't give me looks. Yeah. You gotta say it back.
Used to the word jamoke too. I'm a big fan.
I don't know. Is that offensive? I don't know. I don't think it is.
We're about to get canceled.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it is. You want
to look that one up? How do you spell that?
I think it just means idiot.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, some boneheads. Some boneheads. It doesn't understand that you're supposed to say "Go Bills" back. Like,
yeah. But it's different with the Bills family. I couldn't believe that walking through the airport. There wasn't like a people flying to Dallas and they're all wearing cowboy stuff, but the Bills fans just always just so loud and proud.
Yeah, Bills fandom is different than a lot of other fandoms. I'll say that for the Sabres as well too. Both logos have a very obvious representation of the city.
Yeah.
So it's your Bills fandom isn't just like, oh yeah, I'm a Bills fan. I'm from Buffalo.
Right.
And Buffalo is one of those cities where we don't have a lot of transplants. If you live here, there's a 90% chance you were born here. And so much of, our love for the Bills and the Sabres is because that was our mom's team, our dad's team, our neighbor's team, our friend's team. Like, it's just not even a team purpose. It's just like it represents who we are as a city, for better or for worse. Like, Buffalo is a sports city.
But it's also a blue-collar, underdog city. So it's like, just goes hand in hand, man.
I can't wait until that association is gone and everybody hates the Bills because they're so successful and they won all those Super Bowls. But for now, yes, underdog, I guess. But yeah, it's just our professional sports teams are our face to the rest of the world.
Yes.
And so when you're wearing that Bills stuff, it's more than like I'm a Bills fan. I'm from Buffalo.
Yeah.
Right.
So now that you're forever tied to the Buffalo Bills franchise with everything that you've done, I mean, talk about some of the cool experiences. Like, what have you been able to? I mean, weren't you just fan of the year?
Yeah.
How did that come about? And please tell us.
Yeah. So my wife back in like August discovered that Bills fan of the year was a thing. And she's like, I'm going to nominate you. And I was like, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Mom, you're
like,
embarrassing.
It's almost like that. Like, don't do that. Like, people know who I am. It's fine. Like, it's all good. Like, I don't, whatever. She's like, no, we're doing it. And if you've met my wife, like,
Sweetheart.
all right, if Chrissy says so,
Yep.
like, it's happening. So I said, I'm not sharing it. Like, whatever you do. I'm not going to share
Right.
it. A few weeks later, she made me share it. But like real, like I try to do it as I tried to obfuscate it as much as possible.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's part of the lifestyle that then the branding and everything else that goes along with it. So listen, no shame, right? Like,
Yeah.
And I think us being in our 40s, you're in your 40s, right?
For a little bit still.
Okay, so a little bit, geez. I guess my point is that being our age, we're not always used to social media and the sharing of everything, right?
Yeah.
And even with the podcast and the reels and everything like that, it took me a long time, right? And I'm still getting used to it, is sharing everything, where the generations coming up, I mean, their whole fucking lives are out there and everything, just, again, they're showing everything, right?
Digitally native, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. But so she figured out it was a thing, and she started tweeting at every single person that she knew, every former Bills player we'd ever met, different media people, like, nominate Dell, nominate
I would
Dell.
love to see those poll results because, I mean, who else would there be?
I mean, Bill's Elvis won it last year. He does great work. Was raising money at Lockport, and a gentleman named Gino out of Rochester won it 2 years ago. He did a lot of work with a local football team. I think he started a football program. Sorry, Gino, if you're watching it, if I messed it up. But yeah, so she got a bee in her bonnet about it, and she's like, this is happening. And when the Bills surprised me with Stevie Johnson and everything, probably seen the video, they actually told me it was like kind of unanimous, like all the different nominations. I don't know the exact process. I think everybody gets nominated, then the team actually chooses who they're going to signify.
Some control over it.
Yeah, well, but she said it was like kind of unanimous,
Also,
and I was like,
That's amazing.
wow. So, but also it's because my wife got out early and just started like hitting everybody like nominate Dell. No, but it's super humbling, and it is. I mean, there was a game or two after I'd been told I was fan of the year. I remember walking up to my seats at the stadium, surrounded by 73,000 people. I remember thinking, like, these people live and die with this team, and they are generations deep, all the same as me.
Sure.
And how any one of these people could be a fan of the year. It's like, oh, except for that Dolphins fan, he came. No, but it's because it's such a community thing. It's not something that's unique to Dell.
Yeah.
Like we're just talking about how much it's a representative of our community, how much we love it. But that said, I wasn't giving it back. Like so I was keeping it. But no. So then, just to everything that came out of that, they sent me to the Super Bowl. I got to go on Thursday. The Thursday beforehand.
Did they give you more than one ticket? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I got to bring Chrissy.
That's amazing.
Yeah. She has to go, right? It was her idea. She did everything, But we go out Thursday morning. Thursday night is the NFL honors, where they announced the NFL Fan of the Year, which was Tom Grassi from the Packers. Awesome dude, all good. I've actually known him before we both got nominated as Fan of the Year. We helped him with a project he did over the summer. We did his T-shirts. It was a fundraising project. He raised like something like $300,000 or plus for St. Jude. Wow. Part of that was a T-shirt sales. So I told him, I said, Tom, I get 1% of that Fan of the Year. So he was down with it. It was cool. But so we go to the NFL honors that night, which was amazing. Like you walk, the red carpet and everything. And we got to see Harrison Phillips, who was up for Walter Payton Man of the Year for the Vikings, former Bill. Saw Dion, who was up, for the same award. Well, so I saw Jared Payton, who is Walter Payton's son. I actually know him through when we used to do stuff in Chicago for 26 Shirts. Awesome dude. I got to, under my jersey, I was wearing a shirt that we had designed of a buffalo knocking out a dolphin. It said reigning champs. I saw Tyreek Hill, and I pulled up my jersey, and he pretended he didn't see me, but he saw it.
He's probably like, damn, I can't get away from him.
Darn right. But it was awesome. Barry Sanders, I got to meet Ian Rappaport. I saw Tom Pelissero, Mike Tomlin. It was amazing. It was like, I'm just pulling names on them, trying to think of all these people I saw. So after that NFL, I'd never been to an award show like that either.
Yeah.
It was like going to the Oscars for the NFL. So unlike the Oscars, where I hadn't seen every movie, I knew every single award that was going out, that was going on, and what who I thought should have been, and whatever. And if they'd have sent us home like the next morning, we would have been fine. It was such an awesome experience just going to the NFL honors. But then on Friday, we got to go to the Super Bowl experience, which was like half Hall of Fame, half like amusement park vibe to it, like all these different things there that you could interact with in terms of like NFL history.
Mm-hmm.
We got to hang out with Stevie Johnson because he was having a creator summit in Las Vegas for that same weekend. So got to talk with him and hang out and meet some of his compatriots. And then the next day we did the Sports Illustrated like party at, I think it's called Encore at the Wynn. It's like some big nightclub. I'm officially old. Like we were there. I'm like, it's too dark. It's too loud. It's too late. It was like the party started at like 10 o'clock. I'm like, what? I'm in bed an hour ago usually. So, but that was really cool to be a part of that. And then the next day was the Super Bowl, and I'm forgetting like 10 different things that happened. It was such a whirlwind week. Oh, one of my business partners that I've worked with on different projects, he got us to a party on Friday night where it was a bunch of Cirque du Soleil performers, and then all out of the blue they go, "Oh, a surprise performer, Mark McGrath from Sugar Ray," and we're like, "Oh my gosh!" Because it's one of those things where like if you went to a concert, like, "Oh, you want to go see Mark McGrath?" You're like, "Yeah, sure, yeah," but when you're not expecting it, all of a sudden like he's there, you're like, "This is amazing!" And like we're in our 40s, we know every single song because every single song was on the radio nonstop during the 90s.
So Jessie works for New Era, so she goes out there for work the entire week, right?
Yeah.
And by the time the Super Bowl comes, like she gets tickets to the Super Bowl, and she's like, "I'm exhausted. Like I've been working, and then going to the parties and meeting the agents, and just they're all networking, right, behind the scenes." But yeah, same thing. Like the people that she's met and the concerts and the after parties and all that stuff. It's
wild.
It's a week of just I mean,
I feel like I'm too old for it.
Yeah, the game was epic though. I'll tell you what. Like even though it felt like the game was almost an afterthought.
Sure.
Based on all the stuff that happened beforehand, when you're at the game, and the example I always use is the voice over the loudspeaker. Like you hear the guy announcing, and you're like, that is a Super Bowl voice. Like that's exactly the voice I would expect to hear at the Super Bowl. But it was just it is wild too. All the little things like when you go to a commercial break, like in the stadium, they're saying this commercial break is brought to you by like it's like so everything was nothing got by without a sponsor. That whole end of business like fascinates me.
That's wild.
But
How was the stadium there?
oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. So I was actually at a trade show a year prior, in January in Las Vegas, and we got to one of the events that one night was at the stadium. So you're walking through the stadium, and there's Raider stuff everywhere, and you're thinking like Kenny Stabler, Fred Biletnikoff, all these famous Daryl Lamont. Like most of these dudes have never even been in the stadium either because they've passed away or like whatever. Like it just feels weird because there's all this history in that stadium. Yeah. It's a brand new stadium in a brand new city.
Right.
So that aside, that stadium is beautiful.
Yeah.
Like it is an awesome venue. And I was surprised too. You go there and you're expecting like a drink to be like $50 or something like that. Like it was like going to a Bills game in terms of the concessions. Obviously everything else beforehand was a little bit more pricey, but
it's just a little different.
Yeah.
So let's rewind with you created this Bills Mafia brand, I guess, right? And so the Buffalo Bills, right? You talked about their logo and their brand. At what point do they come to you and say, hey, or do they come to you and say, hey, that's ours? Like, how did that all work? Because now it's officially Bills Mafia and part of the NFL and the Buffalo Bills. Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah,
Just to jump in, did you trademark it or anything before?
Everybody is always asking me that. I did not trademark Bills Mafia any more than
How could you?
Can you trademark McDonald's dudes?
Right. Yeah.
Or
right.
Burger King fans? It has a trademark term in it.
Sure.
Now, different people have told me different things over the years, but as far as I'm concerned, that
That makes
is the rationale that makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
But also, your mindset wasn't even there to even.
Well, it's a big part of what this whole discussion that we're about to have is like the Bills are one of my favorite things in the entire world.
Right.
The last thing I want is weirdness between me and them. When it comes down to it, like that's not business for me. That's passion and love, and stuff has grown out of it. So with that, with that said, they reached out to me in October of 2020 and basically said, "Hey, we want to adopt Bills Mafia as the brand, the name for the fans." And we had a bunch of discussions back and forth, and basically worked with them to make sure that they could take it a lot farther than we could ever take it. And I always said in those early Bills Mafia days, I would love to see Bills Mafia become the name of the fans. And this is back when we were like a small little segment that other Bills fans made fun of. I would love to see that become the name of the fans because it's unique, it's different, it's not 12th man, which is all over football. In fact, that trademark is owned by Texas A&M. Seattle had to change their name to the 12s.
Well, growing up as a kid,
really?
being a Bills fan, right? Like the 12th man was on the wall, and you would hear that all the time. And then when I saw Seattle had it, I'm like, wait, what? Like that's ours.
Yeah, it's actually Texas A&M's.
Right. So it's not even ours.
Right. So that's amazing and surreal. Like I said at the beginning of this interview, like being at the stadium and hearing that, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So in my mind, in a lot of ways, it always did belong to them in a way,
Right.
because we're talking about something that represents them.
Were you shocked that they reached out to you?
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm glad because they could have proceeded full steam ahead and never even talked to me.
That's why, like you said, like you're using their name. So the fact that you're telling this, they approached you to work something out is amazing. It says a lot about them.
Yeah, it really, and I've had nothing but positive experiences with them ever since then. It's been really cool. It's been really cool, and talking with the former COO Ron Rakuya through this whole process and everything, and actually meeting with Kim Pagula and Jason Sinaraja, who is no longer with the Bills, great dude. Working with them through that whole process was actually a very big learning experience for me as well, just in terms of how. Well, first of all, I don't think these people ever leave the office. they just work nonstop. It's amazing how much time and energy they're running an NFL team. It makes sense, sure, but like it's just so to be said. Like these people work so hard at what they're doing, but. It was a wild process to work through with them, and they've involved me since then in different projects. I remember a couple months later, this is during COVID, mind you, October 2020. A couple months later, they had me host a watch party with Fred Jackson, and so it was like it wasn't Zoom, it was like Microsoft Teams or whatever. But watched the whole game with Fred Jackson and a bunch of other fans were in there. I was kind of like the host of it. It was cool that they actually
It's really cool.
trusted me to do that. Because remember that during that COVID year, you'd see all the fans on during the commercial cutouts and everything. So it was one of those things.
So how many autographs have you signed?
How many autographs?
Yeah. So you sign autographs, right? You're that famous.
Oh, no, shut up. Hey, why did you say it? Cut this. No. A couple. I feel really weird about it, but at the same time, I don't want the person who's asking to feel weird about it.
I'm teasing you, but
yeah, I know.
Listen, I feel like you've done a lot of great things. You're living a very cool life, and I would assume you get. Listen, I wish someday I could do something that somebody wants my autograph. I just, other than the checks that I sign for the employees that I have or the bills that I have to pay, that's the only scratch that I'm doing.
Yeah, so a few, not a lot, about a handful maybe at the most. But one was a little kid back in January, had a mini helmet. He wanted me to sign it.
That's so cool.
And I was like, "Are you sure?" Are
You really want me to
sure?"
draw on your helmet?
And, I mean, he's like, yeah. His dad's he's really excited to meet the fan of the year.
His dad was there, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and-
not like he went back and said, "Hey, that man just signed my helmet."
Dad's like, who the heck is that? No, but his dad had told him like, the fundraising and all that. And the kid was just, it was funny. There's a picture of me signing it. And the kid, you'd think he's looking at Josh Allen.
That's awesome.
It's super humbling. Like, it's I guess it's an honor. That kid will grow up and be like, why the heck did I have this guy sign my helmet? But for now, it's really cool. The kid thinks it's really cool.
Well, when I owned the video game stores, like I was a big hit of kids under like 14, right?
I know
Like,
now.
Yeah, like they thought I was the coolest person owning video game stores. I'm like, guys,
Dude, when my kids were under 14, the fact that I knew the Oogie Games guy,
That's what I'm saying.
like that was street cred in my house.
games. I'm like, yeah. To little kids, it was impressive.
Yeah, no doubt.
What do you think about the new stadium? Thoughts there?
I'm excited to see it. Like,
Yeah.
really, I mean, I know there's a lot of other things that are going on, like in terms of like what it's going to cost and all that.
I mean, outside the money, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, because I don't.
control that.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of politics that go into that, obviously.
Exactly.
Did you get to go to the stadium experience yet?
not yet. I guess there's a
You?
cardboard stand-up of me in there though.
Shut
Not just me. It's not like there's no picture of Dell. Like, but there's like a whole collage of fans, and like my head is sticking out, so it's not even that big.
Well, I
But
get an extra ticket. I mean, I heard it was like media night the other night, and all the media people got to go through it.
oh, yeah, yeah. I think because Kevin O'Neill from Channel
Yeah,
2,
yeah.
he posted a picture. It was like there's like Bill's Elvis there, and then my head sticking out, and Hannibal Lecter, if you know him with the Hannibal
That's awesome.
Lecter mask and everything. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to walk through it yet, but it looks
No, but I think, again, going back to the stadium,
yeah.
it's going to cost a lot of money, but it's, I mean, I think
That's the NFL though. Like when the Pagulas bought the team in 2014, it's like basically you want an NFL team, this is what comes along with it.
Sure.
And whether you want to consider it as this awesome, amazing blessing or a monkey's paw situation, like you got what you wish, you got what you wish.
All right,
Yeah.
here we go. Hot take.
But-
Dome or no dome?
Um,
I'll make an argument for both, right? Like, I see it both ways.
Yeah. I would say, can I go with retractable roof?
Yeah.
But I would, one
But
thing.
then at what point, then now it's the argument of like, when do you open it? When don't you open it, right? Like,
Yeah, it's every Friday before the game, people be tweeting, "Is it gonna be open? Is it gonna be open? No, it's not gonna be open. It should be open."
I agree with you. There's arguments for both ways. And I feel like the no dome is actually more for the fans' experience than the players.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like that's where it's like, is it really, depending on who we play, is it really a benefit to play in the snow? Like maybe not.
The Bills, as they've been constructed the past few years, feel like they're more of a dome team because of the
Of
speed
course.
and
The NFL in general.
I mean, the stats alone, Josh Allen's.
right. I mean, I guess I would have preferred a dome, but I'm not losing sleep over it. I honestly don't I don't care.
You
that it's
can't
not a
control
dome.
it. At
But
the
if-
end of the day,
But if they came to me and they said, "Dell, your choice, dome or no dome,"
wait, you didn't have a vote in that?
dome.
Fan of the year.
It was too late. Maybe Elvis did last year. Maybe he got in. But if I choose dome. But at the same time, I'm not complaining about, especially since 70% of the seats are going to be covered anyway.
Yeah.
I heard that
Well,
the
that's-
design is so that it's really not going to be like it's wide open.
Right.
Well, and also if they, they continue to add in all those heaters and they're in more of an area. Listen, in my old age, I'm not going and sitting out.
That's where I'm at.
You know,
That's where I'm at.
it's not
I'm
happening
not getting
anymore
a snow
for me.
game.
I'm at the age now where it's Saturday night, and I'm already thinking, I'm going to be in that lot for 3 hours after the game.
Yeah.
I went to the
I'm already at that age.
I went to the Bills playoff game 2 years ago versus Miami, and it was like a 35-degree day, and I was in heaven.
Uh-huh.
Like, because I was so, I just don't want to be cold. I don't want to be wet. And the sun was out, and it wasn't snowing. It was like the perfect game.
Yep.
That says a lot about Buffalonians that you were excited it was 35 degrees.
Oh, I'm soft.
Oh,
I'm going to say I'm soft.
That's
but what he's saying is that the fact that you're saying 35.
yeah. You were
is
happy.
soft.
No,
You're happy about 35 degrees. That's crazy.
Right.
But yeah, so I cannot wait to see that stadium. I wish I'd been able to go to London this past year because it's based on that stadium, the Tottenham Stadium.
Yeah.
And so many people were saying how beautiful that stadium was, and it's only going to be that much better now that this one's being built, several years afterwards, because everything, as soon as it is debuted, is out of date because they're working on the next thing. But yeah, I can't wait. I think it's great that it's where it is too. I know a lot of people wanted it downtown. The infrastructure,
There'll be more parking and more ability to tailgate.
well, hopefully. All those private lots aren't going anywhere, right? So if you parked on Big Tree or wherever your whole life, you can still park there.
Yeah, it's just across the street.
Right. So, but I think it's great because of that. I know a lot of people wanted it downtown, but there's no way.
No, I know.
Oh,
The
yeah.
infrastructure and things
Yeah.
like that. Listen, it's already, to get out of a Sabres game, right? Who's got 17 or 18,000 seats.
Right, it's tough.
Can you imagine getting out of a Bills game at 65,000 or 63 or whatever the number is? What that would be like down there? Like, well,
You want to talk about anxiety setting in just from the conversation?
Yeah.
Just feeling that.
Like stuck in traffic. But that's the thing. Again, the organization, I think, did that. That was more for the fans, like, because the tailgating experience
that would all
of the game,
disappear.
it wouldn't be the same if.
No, and listen, I think there's something to be said to have that stadium in the skyline on the water. Like,
Sure.
that's sexy, right? But, listen, they've done plenty of studies for plenty of years.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Like,
Yeah. We're
millions of dollars in studies, right?
We're just like three dudes just
Walking
like,
around.
like, oh yeah, they should have done this.
Kind of fake podcast.
Fake
you know.
podcasters. I went to my daughter really got into the NBA past couple years, and I don't know why, but she adopted the 76ers, like they're her team.
Okay.
And since I don't have a horse in the race, I'm like, all right, I guess we're a 76ers family now. So last March or February, whatever it was, I took her to the Sixers game in Philly, and we missed almost the whole first half because the traffic was so bad just to get into the stadium. And that's right downtown. I'm not saying it's 100% analogous to the Buffalo situation, but there was so much traffic just to get into the stadium. And then you had that stadium, and then you have
They're right next to each other.
right next to
Yeah. Same parking
Eagles
lot.
play. So it was a mess. So I can't even imagine that you.
Well, and the same thing happened to me. I'm dating myself now. I'm like 16 years old, and my buddy calls me and says, "Hey, I've got an extra ticket to the Toronto Raptors game," and it was Jordan's last year with the Bulls.
Oh, wow.
We missed like the whole first half because we were sitting in traffic, and then it was like, we were so high in the nosebleeds that like the player, I was there, and I could say I was there, but I didn't see much of anything.
And they didn't have the jumbo screens like they have now.
But I think they were playing in the baseball, the Sky, was it called the Sky Dome? Or at the time? Yeah. I think they were playing in the Dome. So when I think it was like one of their first
Where the
inaugural
Raptors
seasons.
played was in the Sky Dome?
I think they did. I think they did. And now I'll fact check it.
Yeah.
But that's
Don't worry,
talking,
everybody watching will.
yeah, we're talking like 30 years ago now at this point. But legit was so high up. And I think they played in the Sky Dome their first couple seasons, from what I remember.
Well, that makes
like-
sense, yeah, because the Raptors were a brand new team, like the
Maybe they didn't have
whatever it
the
was, yeah.
Yep.
place built or something.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going with. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
When you see Bills Mafia everywhere, like, does it ever cease to amaze you?
No. How could it? How could I ever get used to it? Like I said before, like being in the stadium and hearing that stuff over the PA and seeing billboards, around from like other brands, like whether it's like Molson Canadian or the billboard on the 33, I think it's like we're fans of the Mafia or something like that. All these different things is just, it's so weird. But
Well, you mentioned the word surreal. I don't think there's a better way to describe. Like,
I got to come up with
that must
more
be.
better words though, because every
I don't-
interview I probably say it like 10 times.
But that's probably the best way to describe it, because it's just a wild story and a story that we can actually pinpoint when and where it began. That's crazy too, because I think with a lot of things people won't know, but like this is on Twitter. You know what I mean? It's like documented. That's where it began.
Such a boring tweet if you look at it too. It's like there's a follow Friday, like hashtag FF, and it says follow the Bills Mafia, and it has a bunch of names. And it's
So
like,
you like
then it said draft.
print that out
was a
and
draft-
frame it?
Was that?
Print that out and frame it? Would you sign it if I did?
No.
Del, I thank you for being here. I'm always a huge fan of you. Every time I talk to you, I love hearing your story and everything you're doing. Incredible work with the community. So please keep it up, and thanks for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you for the invite. I mean, we've known each other now for probably like 10 years. I mean, you've been
Yeah. No, I remember early on
And,
you started and we were walking the halls of the Eastern Hills Mall talking about business because I was going through a transition too, and as were you. So it's always nice to lean on other entrepreneurs and get ideas and just, have a brainstorm session, right?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you. You've been a good sounding board, and there's been times when there's like literally nobody I could talk to that would understand
Yeah.
it's exactly what I was dealing with at that time.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you.
Why don't you plug your all your goodies that you got going on?
Yeah, 26shirts.com. If you're watching this, we probably just launched a shirt today. And it helps a family in need. And yeah, I guess anything else, like my Twitter handle at Del Reid, whatever, at 26shirts on all the social media channels. But go to 26shirts.com and, go help somebody.
Well, keep doing the great work, Matt. Thank you.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.